Good morning, this is Ron. Welcome to Story Time. Good morning, this is Ron, and it is Thursday, July 27th, and we are reading from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, and today we're going to be covering Law 25, Recreate Yourself. Do not accept the roles that society foists on you. Recreate yourself by forging a new identity, one that commands attention and never bores the audience. Be the master of your own image rather than letting others define it for you. Incorporate dramatic devices into your public gestures and actions. Your power will be enhanced and your character will seem larger than life. The character you seem to have been born with is not necessarily who you are. Beyond the characteristics you have inherited, your parents, your friends, and your peers have helped to shape your personality. The Promethean task of the powerful is to take control of the process, to stop allowing others that ability to limit and mold them. Remake yourself into a character of power. Working on yourself like clay should be one of your greatest and most pleasurable life tasks. It makes you, in essence, an artist creating yourself. In fact, the idea of self-creation comes from the world of art. For thousands of years, only kings and the highest courtiers had the freedom to shape their public image and determine their own identity. Similarly, only kings and the wealthiest lords could contemplate their own image in art and consciously alter it. The rest of mankind played the limited role that society demanded of them and had little self-consciousness. A shift in this condition can be detected in Velázquez's painting Las Meninas, made in 1656. The artist appears at the left of the canvas, standing before a painting that he is in the process of creating, but that has its back to us. We cannot see it. Beside him stands a princess, her attendants, and one of the court dwarves, all watching him work. The people posing for the painting are not directly visible, but we can see them in tiny reflections in a mirror on the back wall. The King and Queen of Spain, who must be sitting somewhere in the foreground outside the picture. The painting represents a dramatic change in the dynamics of power and the ability to determine one's own position in society. For Velázquez, the artist is far more prominently positioned than the king and queen. In a sense, he is more powerful than they are, since he is clearly the one controlling the image, their image. Velázquez no longer saw himself as a slavish, dependent artist. He had made himself into a man of power, and indeed the first people other than aristocrats to play openly with their image in Western society were artists and writers, and later on, dandies and bohemians. Today, the concept of self-creation has slowly filtered down to the rest of society and has become an ideal to aspire to. Like Velázquez, you must demand for yourself the power to determine your position in the painting and to create your own image. The first step in the process of self-creation is self-consciousness, being aware of yourself as an actor and taking control of your appearance and emotions. As Diderot said, the bad actor is the one who is always sincere. People who wear their hearts on their sleeves out in society are tiresome and embarrassing. Their sincerity notwithstanding, it is hard to take them seriously. Those who cry in public may temporarily elicit sympathy, but sympathy soon turns to scorn and irritation at their self-obsessiveness. They're crying to get attention, we feel, and a malicious part of us wants to deny them the satisfaction. Good actors control themselves better. They can play sincere and heartfelt, can affect a tear and a compassionate look at will, but they don't have to feel it. They externalize emotion in a form that others can understand. Method acting is fatal in the real world. No ruler or leader could possibly play the part if all of the emotions he showed had to be real. So learn self-control. Adopt the plasticity of the actor who can mold his or her face to the emotion required. The second step in the process of self-creation is a variation on the George Sand strategy. The creation of a memorable character, one that compels attention, that stands out above the other players on the stage. This was the game Abraham Lincoln played. The homespun, common countryman he knew was a kind of president that America had never had, but would delight in electing. Although many of these qualities came naturally to him, he played them up. The hat and clothes, the beard. No president before him had worn a beard. Lincoln was also the first president to use photographs to spread his image, helping to create the icon of the homespun president. Good drama, however, needs more than an interesting appearance or a single standout moment. Drama takes place over time. It is an unfolding event. Rhythm and timing are critical. One of the most important elements in the rhythm of drama is suspense. Houdini, for instance, could sometimes complete his escape acts in seconds, but he drew them out in minutes, 2 minutes, to make the audience sweat. The key to keeping the audience on the edge of their seats is letting events unfold slowly, then speeding them up at the right moment, according to a pattern and tempo that you control. Great rulers from Napoleon to Mao Zedong have used theatrical timing to surprise and divert their public. Franklin Delano Roosevelt understood the importance of staging political events in a particular order and rhythm. At the time of his 1932 presidential election, the United States was in the midst of a dire economic crisis. Banks were failing at an alarming rate. Shortly after winning the election, Roosevelt went into a kind of retreat. He said nothing about his plans or his cabinet appointments. He even refused to meet the sitting president, Herbert Hoover, to discuss their transition. By the time of Roosevelt's inauguration, the country was in a state of high anxiety. In his inaugural address, Roosevelt shifted gears. He made a powerful speech, making it clear that he intended to lead the country in a completely new direction, sweeping away the timid gestures of his predecessors. From then on, the pace of his speeches and public decisions, cabinet appointments, bold legislation, unfolded at an incredibly rapid rate. The period after the inauguration became known as the 100 Days, and its success in altering the country's mood partly stemmed from Roosevelt's clever pacing and use of dramatic contrast. He held his audience in suspense, then hit them with a series of bold gestures that seemed all the more momentous because they came from nowhere. You must learn to orchestrate events in a similar manner, never revealing all your cards at once, but unfolding them in a way that heightens their dramatic effect. Besides covering a multitude of sins, good drama can also confuse and deceive your enemy. During World War II, the German playwright Bertolt Brecht worked in Hollywood as a screenwriter. After the war, he was called before the House Committee on Un-American Activities for his supposed communist sympathies. Other writers who had been called to testify planned to humiliate the community members with an angry, emotional stand. Brecht was wiser. He would play the committee like a violin, charming them while fooling them as well. He carefully rehearsed his responses and brought along some props, notably a cigar in which he puffed away, knowing the head of the committee liked cigars. And indeed, he proceeded to beguile the committee with well-crafted responses that were ambiguous, funny, and double-edged. Instead of an angry, heartfelt tirade, he ran circles around them with a staged production, and they let him off scot-free. Other dramatic effects for your repertoire include the beau geste, an action at a climactic moment that symbolizes your triumph or your boldness. Caesar's dramatic crossing of the Rubicon was a beau geste, a move that dazzled the soldiers and gave him heroic proportions. You must also appreciate the importance of stage entrances and exits. When Cleopatra first met Caesar in Egypt, she arrived rolled up in a carpet, which he arranged to have unfurled at his feet. George Washington twice left power with flourish and fanfare, first as a general, then as a president who refused to sit for a third term, showing that he knew how to make the moment count dramatically and symbolically. Your own entrances and exits should be crafted and planned as carefully. Remember that overacting can be counterproductive. It is another way of spending too much effort trying to attract attention. The actor Richard Burton discovered early in his career that by standing totally still on stage, he drew attention to himself and away from the other actors. It is less what you do that matters, clearly, than how you do it. Your gracefulness and imposing stillness on the social stage count for more than overdoing your part and moving around too much. Finally, learn to play many roles, to be whatever the moment requires. Adapt your mask to the situation. Be protean in the faces you wear. Bismarck played this game to perfection. To a liberal, he was a liberal. To a hawk, he was a hawk. He could not be grasped, and what cannot be grasped cannot be consumed. Reversal. there can easily be no reversal, or there can really be no reversal of this critical law. Bad theater is bad theater. Even appearing or appearing natural requires art, in other words, acting. Bad acting only creates embarrassment. Of course, you should not be too dramatic. Avoid the histrionic gesture. But that is simply bad theater anyway, since it violates centuries-old dramatic laws against overacting. In essence, there is no reversal to this law. And so that ends the chapter, which is chapter Law 25, Recreate Yourself. And I was thinking when I was reading this about whether or not this applied to, because many of the laws in this book apply to Donald Trump. When you read a lot of these laws and you think about Donald Trump, he seems to play or work within these laws perfectly. This is one law in which he seems to do exactly the opposite. He does the reversal. He's not the guy that is going to appear to be a liberal to a liberal and a hawk to a hawk. He is who he is. He's more like Popeye. I am what I am. And what's going to be interesting in the future is to find out whether or not he can succeed. Can he make it through the first 4 years of his presidency? And if so, is he going to be successful, or is he going to be a failure? Another thing that just occurred to me too is the appearance issue, is that he may very well end up being successful, but end up appearing to be a failure, or maybe even vice versa. So next time is going to be on Saturday the 29th, and I'm going to read Law 26, Keep Your Hands Clean. You must seem a paradigm of civility and efficiency. Your hands are never soiled by mistakes and nasty deeds. Maintain such a spotless appearance by using others as scapegoats and cat's paws to disguise your involvement. And so that will be next time, which is Saturday, July 29th. And I'm coming to you today, by the way, from on location at the Lovebirds Cafe and Bakery on Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena. And thank you for joining me, and we'll see you on Saturday.